The 2008 K2 disaster, tragedy on K2 explained. Disasters are quite common on higher altitudes, and yes, mountain climbing is indeed a treacherous hobby. Even with precautions, unexpected events can happen at any time. This is exactly what happened in the K2 disaster. But what exactly happened here? Who were the people involved in this? How many were there? Continue watching the video till the end to know more. Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another video from our channel. We hope you guys are doing extremely well. In this video, we'll be talking about the 2008 K2 disaster. We will be diving deep into every aspect of this topic. So if you are new to this channel, then make sure to hit the subscribe button. Now without any further ado, let's hop right into the video. On August 1st, 2008, 11 climbers perished on K2, the deadliest day in the mountain's history. At 28,251 feet, K2 is the second highest mountain in the world. It's roughly 800 feet shorter than the world's tallest peak, Mount Everest, but has the reputation of being far more dangerous. The tragic event on K2 became a major news story in the summer of 2008. Although the details of what happened on that day and why so many people lost their lives are still murky. Director Nick Ryan attempts to piece together the story in a documentary called The Summit, which premiered at Sundance earlier this year. The movie relies on interviews from survivors and uses footage from the actual climb as well as reenactments filmed in the Alps. In the cold of dawn, 1st August 2008, 31 climbers from 8 separate international expeditions set off for the final day's ascent of K2 in northern Pakistan, a near-perfect pyramid which, though smaller than Everest, has lured the best climbers for decades. Less than 48 hours later, 11 climbers would be dead, in one of the worst histories in Himalayan history, a story told in my book No Way Down. The edge of a gigantic ice shelf sheared off, sending blocks of ice down the mountain that killed one climber and swept away the network of fixed ropes the teams needed to get down. Trapped in darkness in the so-called death zone, where body and mind gradually break down due to lack of oxygen, the mountaineers had to climb down without ropes or stay overnight in the plummeting temperatures. The human cost of climbing and exploration is borne not just by the mountaineers who die or are injured, but also by the families they leave behind. Of the 11 who died, 8 were married or had long-term partners. Others had girlfriends and 6 had children. 1 had grandchildren, and the first child of the climbers, a young Nepalese Sherpa, was born back in Kathmandu hours before he died. 2 years on from that terrible day on K2, the repercussions are still being felt. I talked to 3 of the families to find out how they are: CECILIE, SKOG, and ROLF Bay. While other climbers' spouses resented the months they spent away from home and the risks they took, CECILIE, SKOG, and ROLF Bay were both accomplished mountaineers. She was the first woman to stand at both poles on the tallest peak in every continent. They often climbed together and shared a passion for the outdoors. They had met on Mount Elbrus in Russia in 2003 and married in 2007, just over a year before the ascent of K2. They had moved in together in Stavanger in Norway and started a business leading other expeditions. CECILIE felt ready to have children, and they had discussed it. She thought she could return to working as a nurse, and when they climbed, they could take their children with them to the mountains. But Rolf wasn't ready to settle down. He died on the mountain, swept away by an ice avalanche, yards in front of CECILIE. CECILIE was the first to arrive in K2 in 2008. When Rolf arrived later, he brought her a present, a colourful plastic inflatable sofa for their tent, where they socialized with other teams by the warmth of a gas heater, watching DVDs on Rolf's laptop. CECILIE reached the summit on August 1st, but Rolf turned back, tired and perhaps suffering from altitude sickness. He waited for his wife and they began to descend together. Then Rolf ventured out onto a huge ice cliff and was swept into the void as the ice collapsed. CECILIE composed herself and gradually continued to descend. The next day she got to the base of the mountain. Helped, she was convinced by Rolf's voice whispering to her. She telephoned Rolf's parents in Norway to tell them their son was dead. He was their only child. "It's okay," Rolf's father assured her. "We only have you now. You must get down safely." Back home in Norway, she couldn't face the apartment she had shared with Rolf and moved in with his parents. She continued to rely on their support and the support of her friends as she struggled to come to terms with what had happened. She also continued to travel to Greenland, not long after K2, and last winter to the South Pole with an American adventurer, Ryan Waters. Those trips began to help her get over Rolf's death. She says she will not give up her life in the wilderness. This year, she came to New York, where we met. I was struck that she had brought her climbing harness. She spent many days climbing the walls in a sports center in Manhattan and bouldering in Central Park. It is very easy to sit here and say we should not have done it, she told me, but I am glad that Rolf was able to live the life he did. One thing that he told me: you should not just sneak after your dreams, you should grab them with both hands and hold them really tight and try to live them. Next year, she plans to travel back to K2 with Rolf's father to set up a monument to Rolf, but she will never climb K2 again, or any of Earth's tallest, most dangerous peaks. She will miss the exhilaration, but I have decided that's not for me now. I don't know if I could tell my mom that I'm going back. I could not look her in the eye and say that. One of the hardest things on an expedition is knowing people are sitting at home, scared and waiting for you to come back. Hugues de Aubred. Hugues de Aubred was a 61-year-old Frenchman from Lyon with a partner, 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren. He had already tried twice to reach the summit of K2 and thought this would be his last chance. Hugues came to climbing late in life, but his infatuation began in 1972 when he glimpsed the summit of Kilimanjaro from an aeroplane as he travelled on military service. He never forgot it, but his wife didn't approve of climbing, so he got on with his life as an insurance agent. But in 1993, they divorced, and a year later, aged 47, he travelled with his new partner, Mine, to Kilimanjaro. In 2004, Hugues became the 56th Frenchman to climb Everest. Sometimes he climbed with his daughters, but they never went with him to the Himalayas or other very high mountains. His absence has caused friction. Mine and his daughters worried that one day he might not return. His younger daughter, Constance, was getting married in September 2008, and she wanted him back safely and on time. She sent Hugues a bottle of Chartreuse on K2 and a note with the latest wedding news. She warned her father not to be late. She didn't want to walk to the altar alone. On K2, he kept in touch with the family almost daily. A friend in Lyon, RAPHÄELE, VERNAY, kept a blog for him, taking down the messages he called in on a satellite phone. Hugues took comfort, he said, reading in his sleeping bag the text messages friends and family sent. From the summit, Hugues called Mine and promised it would be his last climb. He was right, but not in the way he intended. After an ice avalanche swept away the ropes, he tried to descend a steep gully and fell to his death. 5 months later, travelled to Lyon and spent several days with his family, found a yearning for understanding and a strong sense of loss, listened to stories of Hugues' passion for the mountains, and glimpsed the fascinating alter ego he had constructed through his pursuit of distant peaks, as if he had stepped out of his life as an insurance agent into one of exotic adventure. He was a very closed person, but he became a lot more accessible, one friend said. But as well as love, I witnessed anger that he spent so many months away from his family, and in the end had given his life. In fact, Mine refused to talk to me at first, before consenting to spend hours describing Hugues. His 31-year-old daughter, Julia, remained silent, carefully listening to my questions to others about her father's death, while Hugues' grandchild played at her knees. Constance refused to meet me to talk about her father. It was difficult for all of us to relive again this dreadful day. Mine explained in a recent email. 2 years afterwards, we miss him a lot, as on the first day. I also contacted Julia to ask how she had coped. I find that these disappearances are hard to accept, she wrote. It is quite difficult to have nothing, nobody, no accurate story, no funeral, no farewell. When her 2 children are older, she would like to take them to K2 and visit the Gilkey Memorial at the base camp where all the climbers who have died on K2 are remembered. She went on, I always understood the passion that animated my father about this mountain, and others, and I think it is great that he was able to realize his dreams. He was a great father, and even though I miss him very much, I am just happy that he did not go earlier. And that's all for today. Did we miss out on anything? Do you have any other insights on this topic? Did you enjoy watching the video? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. We hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Please like the video if you have not already, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to press the bell icon to never miss another update from our channel. With that being said, let's meet in another one of these videos. Until then, see ya.